turn this music down once we get some people in here. 10 people waiting, 1 dislike. So if you are the person who hit the dislike button before the stream even started, I'm just going to say it once. You can go fuck it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Because you're an asshole. You're an asshole. All right, so we're going to wait a couple seconds here while people come in. You guys can join my background music. A little bit of Breaking Benjamin. Yay. It's very nice. So we're just going to wait like maybe a minute for people to get in here. And then I'll start the shit. All right. All right, guys. I just want to say that my throat's a little crappy right now, so I got some water. And I promise I'm not going to swear as much as I did in the last live stream. Because it does not get monetized because I keep swearing. You know, I got to make money. I got bills to pay, so I got to be good. All right. If you guys are coming in, hit the thumbs up button so we can make the trolls feel like assholes. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody for tomorrow, for all y'all doing a Thanksgiving thing. Austin's in here. Jonathan's in here. Sean's in here. Did I lose Scott? Did Scott leave? He should be back. Scott, I'm going to make you the administrator for this chat, so feel free to boot whoever. Turn this music off. Now that we got 36 people in here, 35. Fuck you, whoever left. Okay, moving on. Anyways, all right. So basically, guys, we're going to do a Q&A for the Patreons right now. We have a bunch of questions on my Patreon page, and I want to go through and talk about briefly. We're going to ask some questions here on the chat. Once we get through that, then I'm going to open up the chat to everybody else. I'll post the link to the Google Hangout, and you can come in and ask your questions, and we can go from there. I know I said happy Thanksgiving, but there are more people coming in, so happy Thanksgiving, guys. Hope you have a good one. I had my Thanksgiving last weekend. No, this past Friday. I don't know what it is. It's Wednesday now. Last Friday, my family came from Bennington. We had some turkey and stuff. So either way, let's go ahead and get into some of these questions. There's a lot of stuff here. Austin, you are in the chat, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm here.
You are? Okay, cool. You said you were the first person to post, and you said that you want to talk about lighting fixtures and dosing. So let's go into that. Go ahead and ask some questions regarding lighting fixtures and dosing. We'll move into that, and then we'll kind of go forward on that.
Yeah, you know the new lighting fixtures that came out. I don't know the company that made them, but it's the ones where you can use the LEDs along with the T5s. You can use the AI primes and the Quetzals and whatnot.
Yep, I have 2 of them.
Yeah, if I were to go about getting that, because as you can see, I just have the AI prime right here.
Yep.
How would I go about changing my lighting spectrum, like my percentages and everything? Would I have to change them?
Oh, wait 1 second.
Thing like that.
Scott's camera or somebody's interrupting you. I missed the last part of your question because somebody queued in for whatever reason. So can you just say the last part of your question for me, please?
Yeah, no problem. Like, if I were to get that, would I have to change my percentages or my lighting, or is the T5 going to really make that much of a difference to where I'd have to really change it?
Well, the T5 is definitely going to... Scott, I'm muting you just for a second. No offense. Basically, when it comes... You're going to go ahead and get the retrofit. So you're, what, 24 inches on that one, I think? Or is that 30?
Yeah. It's just a standard 24-inch, 20-gallon.
All right, so you're going to have 4 T5s you're going to put in there. Have you decided on T5 bulbs you're going to go with yet?
I'm probably just going to do the actinic blues, most likely.
The actinics and the blue plus?
Yeah.
Or just the actinics? Okay, so the blue plus and the actinics, probably, what, 2 of both?
Yeah, most likely.
Okay. And you're just going to use the single AI prime, or do you plan on getting another one?
I'll probably just keep the single AI prime.
Okay. What you're going to do is this, you're going to probably want to, I got to look at your tank real quick and see what you got. Do you have any kind of SPS in there? It's hard to tell on the video.
I know it's hard to tell. I got the green monopora I got from you up at the top, the birds of paradise, and then another mystic monopora right there, and then just the Ponape bird's nest.
So what I would do is, because those 4 bulbs are definitely going to increase the power level in your tank without a doubt, I would go ahead and maybe bring your AI primes percentages down maybe by 10 or 15%, just to kind of give your coral a chance to adjust. But the thing is, T5 doesn't put out a ton of light. I mean, it will help fill in some of the shading and make your tank look a little bit better. I got to take you off there. But I would definitely just keep it your current spectrum, but maybe lower the intensities by, like I said, 10% or so, just to make sure you don't accidentally fry a coral with all the additional lighting you're going to be adding.
Right. No, I hear you. Exactly.
All right. And you're definitely going with that fixture. Nothing, no other like custom retrofit. You definitely want to go with that Aqualight fixture.
Yeah, I'll most likely go with that.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. The other thing you want to talk about was dosing. What you got going on with that?
Yeah, the only question I have is so when I dose, I keep my alkalinity at like 8.5, 9, and then my calcium around like 430, 440. But my magnesium, it's naturally in my tank around 1380-ish in general. So I dose the Red Sea foundations, the ABC, and should I still dose the magnesium? Because I haven't been dosing the magnesium part, just the alkalinity and the calcium, because my magnesium already runs, high enough. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, if it's part of the dosing regimen, I would continue to do it. But the exception is if it starts to increase up to past like 1400 or sorry, 1450, you might start running into issues with your snails and stuff. But if you are on
right.
top of, if you can keep on top of it, you can certainly stop dosing it, but test your magnesium probably once a month. Usually is kind of what I do if I remember, usually once a month. And then if you find that it is lowering naturally over time when your corals are kind of pulling stuff out, you can definitely add some to compensate for that. But don't stop dosing it unless you feel comfortable with the testing. At least once a month, put it on a calendar or something. And
I got you.
and it doesn't hurt to keep testing because it seems like maybe there's just naturally higher levels with that kit. But I would just keep an eye on the level and then make your adjustment, based off of your level. So if it is getting up towards the 1400, you can back off, let it drop to like 1320, 1350-ish, whatever. And then if you want to dose some more to get it up, I know that I've even let mine drop down to about 1280 and was totally fine. There wasn't any issues. Usually you don't start running into problems with calcium alkalinity until you get down to 1100 or lower than that. That's when you start running into issues with that. But as long as you're willing to monitor it and test it, you're totally fine with stopping.
All right, cool. Absolutely. Yeah, I monitor my stuff pretty often, probably like once or twice a week. I test everything.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's good. Are you testing alkalinity, or what test kits are you using to actually test everything?
Actually, on alkalinity, I use the HANA checker, and then for my calcium and my magnesium, I use the Red Sea test kit. I just went straight to Red Sea just because I know I started watching your videos, so I
Yeah.
just
I was just saying
started what you said.
you're a spitting image of me because that's exactly what I do. Hannah is always good for alkalinity, and then Red Sea's been a true winner for me for all this time.
Yeah,
So.
it's funny. I actually I bought the calcium HANA checker, and that thing is ass. I'm not gonna lie, it is not good.
You're not the first person to tell me that, and to be completely honest, I've never used it. Just because I went to buy it, I asked a friend, and he's like, "Yeah, it's a pain in the ass." I'm like, "Okay, that's all I need to know."
I don't know if anyone's told you how you use it, but like whenever you're using like your sample water from your tank, it tells you to only use zero point 0.1 milliliters. So that's like 3 or 4 drops. So if you're like one drop off, it's just gonna throw it off.
Throw it off, yeah. I couldn't give any feedback on that. I've yet to use it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we covered your lighting question and your dosing question. Do you have anything else regarding any of those two topics, or something else that you want to go into as well?
For your acroporas that you sell and whatnot, I know there's probably not because I don't really know of any, but are there any like easier lower light acros that you might have?
Well, right now I have actually somebody asked me this the other day, because they saw the par meters in my 125 and I had it like really high. There's this thing where before I answer that question, basically you can go with a lot of light on a tank and you'll get more growth, but then the coloration will suffer because of the additional light. So I was all about growth in the 125, and I think I could show you guys, why I wanted to grow it out as fast as possible. But the problem is that all my acros are really used to the higher light. So when I came over to the new place in my frag tank, I actually dropped everything down to that 250 to 350-ish par level. So all my acros are really doing well in that par range. So as long as you're around that 250 to even 400 par, you'll be able to grow any acro that I have on the website for sure.
Oh, okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yep, cool. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go down. Jonathan, you here, buddy?
Yeah.
I know that you had you said dosing as well. So is there anything different regarding dosing that I didn't cover that you want to talk about?
Well, as you already know, I just started dosing not too long ago, and I'm dosing the calcium and alkalinity, not magnesium yet, as the number of magnesium is, I think it was like 12 something. So I really don't know how to start dosing magnesium. But
Okay.
also, as you already know, my pH has been average about 7.9, 7.8, and I've done a lot of things to try to bring it up, and sometimes I dose the cold water. So I'm not sure if I can continue dosing the calcium, alkalinity. Obviously, I hear that is a must, but I don't know about magnesium and also cold water to try to bring that pH up.
Now, when you read your pH level, is it off of the probe or off of an actual pH test kit that you're getting that number?
Both.
Both. Okay, and you're still low, like sub. What is it? 7 what?
7.9.
7.9. Okay. Well, you're definitely. I'm gonna tell you right now. My 30 gallons sitting at 772 right now, 7.72, and I'm still totally fine. So, what I will say to that, let's break it up into a couple options here. So, when it comes to the magnesium, do you have a definite number on what your magnesium level actually is?
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I mentioned to Austin, sometimes when your levels get lower, sub 1300, even down, mid 12s, lower 12s, definitely into the 11s, you start running into issues with keeping calcium and alkalinity stable because that magnesium is not in the water column to keep them separated. So they'll precipitate out, causing those fluctuations that you might be dealing with. So I would say definitely dose magnesium to get it up to at least 1350 minimum. And then to go about that, you're dosing 2-part now, right?
Yes.
2-part, like BRS, two-part calcium alkalinity, and then you get the third part of magnesium, correct?
Right.
Okay, so you have that magnesium. So basically, go ahead and you can go to their calculator, their water volume calculator, and basically you can type in your how much water you have, what your current reading of your magnesium is, and then they'll tell you, you put in the type of 2-part you're using, and it'll tell you how much you can put in to get to 1350. If you don't want to do that, just go ahead and put in 100 milliliters because you have to put in a lot of magnesium to kind of get the numbers to go up. So go ahead and throw in 100 milliliters. You could even put in 200, and then test your magnesium in about an hour. See where it's gone up from your numbers.
Just throw in 100 milliliter right away.
Yeah, you can do that. Put it in the power head section. Because some people wait a while to dose magnesium, and they put in a lot to actually get it back up to its normal range. So put in 100, 200 milliliters, wait an hour, test for your magnesium, see where it's at, and then continue to do that. You can judge your dosing based on what your first reading is going to be. Say you put in 100 milliliters and it goes from like 1250 to 1280. Well, that's definitely not enough. So you can increase the dose and bring it up. Now, what I would do is magnesium isn't so fussy about the how much you put in at one time, but sometimes tanks can be weird. They have their own personalities. So I would go ahead and I wouldn't increase it over 100 parts per million in one day just to be on the safe side. But I mean, I've actually went ahead and dumped in almost a half a gallon in my 125 to get it up where it should be, and I ran into zero issues. But I always tell people to take it slow just to be safe. Of course, do it in a power head to help spread it through the tank. And once you get to 1350, you're good to go on that. And then what I would do is continue dosing your 2-part as normal, and then see if your alkalinity goes up based on that, and see if are you noticing any kind of like it's kind of like salt creep, but it's actually underneath the water. It's like on your power head. I mean, your heaters and stuff like that in the sump. Have you noticed anything like that?
Nah, no.
All right, so then it might not be precipitating out yet, but I would go ahead and get your magnesium up, and then continue dosing your 2-part. And did you? What is your alkalinity at right now? You said 8. What?
Alkalinity is at.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that right now.
I'm pretty sure you said 8 something, but I could be mixing it up.
It's 10.9.
Your alkalinity is at 10.9, and you're only at 7.9 pH. That sounds really crazy. All right, what's your calcium at?
425.
Okay, and you've been dosing equal parts of calcium and alkalinity every day, correct?
Yeah, calcium I do 1130. I do 10 milliliters, and then at midnight, I do 10 milliliters of the alkalinity.
Okay, so you are breaking the stuff up. Okay, now, okay, there's a couple things that could be wrong here. One, your test kit could have took a shit, because for you to have, if you're dosing equal parts and you're not adding any additional alkalinity supplements, I know you're talking about the calc. We'll get into that in a second, but if you're dosing equal parts and you're you got 420 calcium, you having 10.9 or 10, yeah, something like that. DKH seems ridiculously high. I think your test kit might be off a little bit. Something's not right. That doesn't add up. So something with that number is not really working well with me. I would double check your test kit. What are you using for that anyways?
I got Red Sea and Hana.
Hana, okay. Your Hana checker is giving you a 10.9? Okay.
No, I think it was the Red Sea.
The Red Sea was giving you 10.8. What's the Hana giving you?
I didn't check with the Hana.
Okay. That's the first thing I want to do is double check with the Hana to see. Your Red Sea test kit could have taken a crap. It could be the reagent might be too old, something like that. But yeah, I would double check that. And then you said that you were adding Kalkwasser just to increase the pH. You said, right?
Right.
Now understand that Kalkwasser, when you dose that, you're actually dosing both calcium and alkalinity, which is the whole purpose of Kalkwasser. But because you're dosing two-part, there's no need for you to dose Kalkwasser to increase your pH. You're getting temporary satisfaction when you're dosing the calc and long-term grief. Basically, you're dosing it for no reason, just to see your pH numbers go up, and for it to only add to your alkalinity issue, or just adding to it when it shouldn't be there. You don't need to add it. So I would dump the Kalkwasser. I would look into other resources. I know we talked about this before or other reasons why your pH might be low, with the skimmer, the outside air line, the air stone in the sump, Chaeto reactor, Refugium, that kind of stuff. Those are all.
I put a hose outside of the my window, and I also put the air stone and the sump.
Okay, well, yeah. So, yeah, I just, there's something about those numbers that aren't matching. They're not adding up. Having John, they want to know if you have a fuge. Are you using a refugium or anything like that to remove CO2? No, okay. I mean, that does make a difference, but regardless of having a refugium, the numbers shouldn't be that far off. Having 10.9 DKH, having your skimmer outside, your air stone in the sump, that kind of stuff. The reason your pH should not be that low. Maybe I'm thinking there's something wrong with the test kits that you have. Those numbers just don't add up for how much you're actually dosing. And again, when you dose equal parts, unless you got a salt mix that is just off the wall, unbalanced, what are you actually using for that?
Is the
grab some water real quick. Go ahead.
I don't remember. Hold on.
What I would say is also your next batch of salt water you make up for your water change, test that as well.
I'm actually using the Red Sea salt.
And you're using Red Sea salt. That's a good salt too. Yeah, there's something. Yeah, you're using Red Sea. That's good salt. You're dosing equal amounts of two-part. I'm thinking your test kits are jacked up, and your pH probe is just not where it should be. Yeah, something about that doesn't add up. We're gonna have to dive into this a little bit, so it doesn't take up the whole stream. We're gonna have to dive into this a little bit closer and pinpoint exactly. Right. I'm thinking it's either your test kits or the probe's not right, because that pH reading does not. Let me give Billy the wrench. Billy, say something so I can give you the wrench. Don't make me scroll. Billy, I'm giving you the wrench. Don't be a dick with it. I just want to sit down with you and maybe take a minute or so. We can talk about that tomorrow night when we do your probe for your salinity. Yep. I just want to. There's something about that doesn't sit well with me, so I'm gonna have to look into the probes and stuff. All right.
Yep, for sure.
All right, so let's see. It's Dennis. Are you here, man? Dennis, you here? No, we got Joey here. Shout out to everybody who's in here, and I didn't get to talk to you yet. All right, different softies. Dennis, are you in the chat? Say something if you are. Carbon dosing. Also, Alan, are you in here as well? Because I know that you have a question you definitely want to take care of. No, Joey's here. Well, I don't see them in chat right now, so I don't want to discuss the question unless I can see that they're here and it's worth talking about. Does anybody who's in chat right now have a specific question you want to ask before I go down the list even further?
Yeah, I'll just ask, following up on what you guys were just talking about. You were talking about dosing alkalinity and calcium in the same amounts. Do you need to do that every single time? I haven't done it yet on my tank, but I was just wondering if you need to do it in the same equal parts every single time.
Yep. When it comes to two-part, well, you got to think about this. When a calcium reactor doses, it always doses equal parts of calcium alkalinity. When Kalkwasser's dose, it's always equal parts of calcium alkalinity, even though it's in a different form. Now, what happens is I can't show you guys, but if you could think of holding a, the reason why you want, I'm gonna give you a little kind of like an analogy, like a visual here. Hold a piece of PVC and put a red marble on one side in there and a blue on the other side. Just keep it doing that until it fills up. So you'll have equal parts of red marbles and equal parts of blue marbles. Okay. Now what happens is if you say your alkalinity is the red, right? You decide you don't want to dose, equal parts of calcium, so you end up dosing eventually more alkalinity. So say you're dosing 5 milliliters of calcium, but yet you want to try to increase your alkalinity, so you start dosing 10. So you'll end up throwing in an extra marble, right, on that side. Now what happens is there's only so much room in that cylinder, which is the water column. What you're going to do is you're going to end up forcing out calcium, okay, out the other side, and you're just going to continue to add the alkalinity, which makes the tank unbalanced. Now what happens is most people do this, and I'm guilty of this early on, is when I started dosing two-part, my alkalinity is is basically low, but my calcium is high. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep dosing alkalinity and get it caught up. Well, what that does is it just makes the tank unbalanced. It makes it so you have fluctuations that aren't supposed to be there. It causes stress and coral, all that kind of stuff you guys know with different fluctuations. So the best thing you can do when your alkalinity is low and say your calcium's at like 450 or something is continue to dose equal parts, but dose more. So instead of dosing 10 milliliters of calcium alkalinity, you'd go ahead and dose maybe 15 or 20. And yes, your calcium will go up temporarily, but eventually it will even itself out as they even out within the water column. And then what helps them stay even is the right level of magnesium in the water column to keep the molecules separated. So I don't know if that makes complete sense. It's kind of hard to do it without actually showing you, but you always want to dose equal parts because it's what helps the system be as stable as possible, just with calcium reactors and Kalkwasser. So does that help you at all? Hopefully it does.
Yeah, I get it. That makes sense. Because I was going to do exactly what you were saying earlier. Sorry, I'm sick. If my alkalinity was low, I was just going to put alkalinity in. But I guess that's not the right thing to do. So no. If your calcium was super high, I mean, would it just keep elevating if you're not consuming it enough, though, or what?
Well, that's the thing is coral consumes calcium alkalinity equally every time. It pulls out one part of calcium molecule, one part of alkalinity, that we call bicarbonate, whatever you want to call it, and it comes together to build its skeletal structure. But it always pulls out even parts. It never says, hey, man, I feel like having fucking alkalinity today, so I'm just going to have that, screw the calcium. It's not going to be like that. It's always going to pull out equal parts every single time to build its structure. So when you add unequal parts, you're just doing more damage than you need to. There's no reason to do that because the system doesn't work like that as a whole. So for your reason, so your calcium is a little high right now. Your alkalinity is low, I'm assuming, right? So go ahead and increase your dosing. What are you dosing right now?
Are you talking to me? No, I haven't dosed anything yet.
Okay, so for example, if you're, like your stuff is low, say they recommend the beginning dose for two-part is 15 milliliters per 25 gallons of water volume to start. That's on a medium stock tank with LPS and some SPS. Now that will change definitely if you have more SPS. You're going to want to go a little bit higher. But say your alkalinity is low. Say your alkalinity is at like 8, and you have 450 calcium. So you're just going to go ahead and increase your dosing, and it will even itself out within a short period of time, depending on how much you actually increase it by. But it will even itself out if you dose equal amounts. But yeah, okay. Well, I went on that tangent for a while. My bad. I do that sometimes.
No, that helps out a lot. That makes a lot of sense. And just kind of hearing you talk about it, though, kind of makes me think, I mean, aside from troubleshooting problems in your tank, why would you necessarily test consistently for calcium if you don't? Alkalinity is going to be your main thing. If I see, if I'm trying to keep alkalinity at whatever level and it drops, I'm going to put the same amount of calcium in anyways. So
Correct. Yep. You're absolutely correct. Most people don't test calcium very often. I'd maybe test it once every couple months, because alkalinity is the key element when it comes to stability. It dictates pH with CO2 in the tank. It also gives you an indication on how much coral is consuming both calcium alkalinity in the tank. So as long as you have a pretty good salt in the beginning that's somewhat even, you don't have one that's kind of completely off the wall, and that your dosing is consistent and equal, testing alkalinity is really all you need to do. And you're already steps ahead, man. You haven't started. You're supposed to figure that out later in life. You're not supposed to figure it out now. But
yeah, I just got a couple of pieces of Euphilia and like a brain coral in there. So it's not stocked at all. It's 120. So I've been checking the alkalinity and it hasn't moved at all. So, and that's been maybe 2 weeks or so, maybe 3.
Yeah, if you have a 120, you won't have to. Your water changes will be good for that until at least you have I mean, I don't know how many rock structures you have, but at least until you're 90% SPS and they're actually starting to pull stuff out, you should be good for a while. I know that on my 300, I have the calcium reactor, but I won't be putting it online until there's actually a reason to. I feel that there's no reason to be dosing calcium alkalinity if I'm not using it up fast enough. And if I do a water change of 55 gallons on that system, and it happens to replace all my needs for that tank for another week, so be it. There's no reason to dose anything.
So my plan was at first to just dose it by hand if I saw it getting low, and I would dose it by hand just to start off before I started, getting into pumps and doing it automatically like that. But I mean, I don't really do water changes on the system. It's just what I do. So what that kind of has me a little bit worried about the trace elements. I've been seeing a whole bunch of stuff on that, and that stuff gets confusing pretty quick because you got all these trace elements, and most of them you don't even test for. So it's kind of hard. The manufacturer comes with a recommended dose on the bottle, and it's pretty hard to say. That's a huge depends, because it depends on how stocked your tank is and how quickly you're using up the trace elements.
Well, so trace elements are I don't know if you're familiar with the Red Sea Color program, but I've been using it for quite a while now. Well, basically, they have a whole methodology that basically goes around how much calcium is used up every day will dictate how much of your the trace elements that you will dose. So because those elements are being pulled out when coral's growing, that's really the only reason to actually replace it. So now that you don't have anything pulling it out, your water changes alone will replace trace elements. You won't have to worry about running out of them because you're not because there's nothing pulling them out. There's no coral pulling them out, so they're they're gonna sit there. So I wouldn't be stressed about that. Trace elements are just a small part of what it really takes to make a coral grow. I ran successful tanks that never even touched anything but 2-part, and they're beautiful. So that would be probably the last thing I would have on my mind if I were you.
All right, cool. And then I guess the last thing that I have in my mind about all this too is a calcium reactor. So we were talking about that, and I think one of Rico's streams with CJ and them, and now it has me thinking about a calcium reactor, of course. So I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I know you used one on the 125, right?
No, the 125 was strictly 2-part, and I'll tell you why I've decided to go with a calcium reactor on my 300. Basically, with 2-part, because it is made out of salt, there's only so much of that you can dose on a daily basis before it starts really impacting the salinity within your reef tank. Now, the 125 was up for a year and a half, and I initially started at 20 milliliters of 2-part every day, and then before I took it down, I was well over 200 per day. A gallon jug would last me just over a week and a half, and basically what made it stressful, and that tank was still young, so if I say I had that tank up for 5 years and it just kept on growing, it would continue to be an issue. And now that issue was when I went to do a water change, I like to keep my system at 1.026, 265 occasionally, but what would happen is my salinity would creep up to 1.028, and I'd be forced to do a water change at 1.024 water just to bring it down. Now the issue is that fluctuation and salinity just to get it down to a normal range was a huge pain in the ass. And And it kind of forced me that I had to stick to that every other week water change schedule. Now, I could have increased it every week, but my schedule just didn't work for that. And that's a big issue with two-part. And you'll find that when you start growing a lot of coral, that would be an issue. Now, with this 300, I will be not only growing what I had in that 125, but I'm going to be increasing my acro population by, it's going to be mostly 90% acro in that tank. So I wanted to avoid that issue altogether. And I didn't want to deal with this tank because right now 55-gallon water changes don't even move the water down 3 inches off the top of the surface of the tank. So it's a big pain in the butt. Of course, I was draining the sump on that as well, but still, 55-gallon water changes are nothing to this tank. Consider the fact it's just under 400 gallons total water volume. So it gets expensive as well. So I figured I'd go ahead and save my money on the two-part. On the dosing pumps, because I was going to have to get new dosing pumps. And I figured I'd go ahead and go with the calcium reactor. Of course, Geo built that custom one, which is rated for a fully stocked 600-gallon SPS tank with no problem. So I have the sky's the limit for this calcium reactor for me at the moment. And yeah, so that's my reason for going for a calcium reactor. Now, I could have went with Triton because I really like Triton method so far, especially on that 30-gallon tank. But the amount of money that it would cost to dose a fully stocked acropora 300-gallon tank for the Triton method is, you think the Zeovis system is expensive. Triton would have blew that out of the water. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Your decision to go with a calcium reactor, two-part or Triton will depend on how big your tank is and how much coral SPS you're going to have in the long run. So hopefully that kind of answers that. I went on another tangent again.
Yeah, man. No, that really helps. The longer you go, the better. I don't know. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess for now, I don't need the calcium reactor, of course. I was just wondering. I don't know if you know or you've talked to people about it, but how long does a typical like 5-gallon or 5-pound CO2 last? Do you know?
Well, in the beginning, when you're just starting to put them online, like if you have a medium stock tank, and it depends on the tank. It's all based on how many bubbles per second you're putting out, and that level is dictated on how much is actually being consumed in the tank regarding calcium alkalinity, because those bubbles have to go into the reactor. They have to mix with the dead, the coral skeletons, and it breaks down the amount, the calcium alkalinity, which can be dripped into the tank. Now, I'm hoping once the tank is fully stocked, or at least majority of it stocked, I can get at least 6 or 8 months out of this 5-pound tank. But I do know that some people who have 400-gallon reefs that are completely slammed with acropora, a 5-pound tank usually gets them 4 to 6 months, again depending on the size. Now the thing is that you also have to keep an eye on the media within the reactor. You'll have to top it off every 6 months or so, depending again how much is being used up. But I would say for you, because you are just starting out, two-part is your best option. Now, the easiest option is of course Kalkwasser. You can put it in your auto top off, but I've discussed in several videos why Kalkas can be great, but it can also be the doom of your tank if you don't have the proper float valves and warning signs ahead of you to kind of turn it off if it goes rogue on you. But I think for you, two-part will be awesome once you start getting some SPS in there and your water changes can no longer keep up with your demand. And you could grow SPS all day in a 125 with two-part for minimal amount of money. So I think you'd be good with that.
Sweet. Yeah, and that's a good tip though. I haven't heard that about the two-part and the salinity before. So that's definitely a good tip.
Yeah, it's not something that people really run into too often because water changes really do help. I mean, most people in that situation, if their schedule was working with them, they would go to a weekly 10% or even 15% to bring that actually down. Yeah, thank you. Shout out to Dave Nano. Yeah, good on the language. I'm telling you, I've only swore like 3 times this whole stream. I'm really trying, guys. And it's a lot for me. Yeah, if you guys know anything about me.
No, that's a lot for me too.
So I'm doing my best here. But yeah, it really comes down to what the hell is that? I got people blowing up my stream right now. Whew. Sorry about that. All right, so
Rico uses 20 pounds every 4 months.
Who is? Sorry?
Rico uses 20 pounds CO2 every 4 months, he says.
Oh, well, Rico's a pro, dude. He's,
Yeah, I mean, that's an extreme situation.
Yeah, he's using 20 pounds just to inhale, make his head bigger. Anyways, moving on. Let's see here. We got Bryce. I haven't heard from you, man. You alive there?
Yeah, I'm alive. I'm at work, so that's I chimed in a little late. I'm just kind of listening here.
Oh, that's cool, man.
This
Yeah,
is actually exactly what I wanted to talk about tonight. So,
oh, good.
I mean, pretty much
great.
all my questions are getting answered. I'm getting ready to start adding calc washer to my auto top off.
Okay.
I've
Now
got
you know what I'm talking about with that backup stuff, right? I don't know if I talked to you about that, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I have double redundancies on it. It has a I'm using the JBJ. I don't know if anybody's watched BRS's video on it, where you can actually invert one of the floats and it acts as a shutoff.
Okay. Yep. There's a lot of people who use that. That's a good system too, and it beeps at you, which is nice.
Yep. So that's what I'm doing. I've got that, awesome. And then I don't have the float valve on it, but I have it swedged down to a smaller tubing. Okay. Where it's only running through 1/4-inch tubing because it's a short run.
And you have it off the bottom of the ATO reservoir, right? I don't know if you covered that already. You have the pump. You have the when you dose calc, you have the pump elevated at least 1.5 to 2 inches off the bottom of the barrel that it's in, correct?
Yeah, I will. I mean, I haven't started dosing calc yet. So.
Yeah, just make. I usually use an egg crate. I make an egg crate stand. I put it in there. Just set the pump on it. It works out just fine. So, because you don't want to dose.
I don't need it yet because my KH was through the roof. Okay. Doing some big water changes. I had that used system. I got doing the water changes to get everything in parameters with Red Sea Coral Pro. Mm-hmm. My DKH was running like 12.1.
Wow, that's that's a hell of an extreme right there. How did it even get there in the first place? Misdosing, bad salt?
I wasn't dosing anything. It was the Red Sea salt.
Oh,
that was the Coral Pro I had. Because once I got that, I got like 12.2, and I said, that's really high, and I went to the local fish store and had them double check it, and they got 12.1. So
now my question for you is, do you mix the salt in the barrel before you do it? Before you make water changes, do you mix the salt around?
Yes.
Okay.
Mix it, let it stir for about 3 to 4 hours, and then put it.
No, what I meant is in the bucket that you're pulling the actual salt out of. Do you mix that bucket before you pull anything out?
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm through that bucket now. I've switched over to a different salt. I went to Fritz, and so my alkalinity now has it was stabilized at like a 9, 8, 9, 9. Mm-hmm. Now it's starting to come down. I'm down to like 8.2.
Okay.
I have that greenmouth candy cane I got from you, and I've added a couple Euphilia.
He's doing pretty good with that. Even with that drop in alkalinity, he's doing pretty good still.
Yeah. Because I mean, I've just let it come down. I've kind of held off on the water changes because nitrates are low and everything else is low. So I've been spacing the water changes out just to let them suck the alkalinity out slowly.
And you fixed. I don't know if there's two people I talked to who made Chaeto reactors. Were you the one that put the lights on that weren't the right ones? Was that you? I could have had you.
That was me. Yep, I fixed it. I fixed it. It was running for a little while. I have regular Refugium. Mm-hmm. And I'm running carbon in that reactor.
Okay, so that's what you got in there now.
I still have it set up where I could just rinse the carbon out and flip it back, but that was the Chaeto started growing really fast again. Mm-hmm. And then it started turning light, so I think I was sucking everything out of the water too fast with it. Because I only have 2 fish in the tank and a couple of corals, so there's not much bio load. And I've gotten the hair algae under control because I changed all the bulbs, and I got a sea hair that pretty much has wiped out that hair algae in about 2 weeks.
Just be careful with the sea hair, and I tell everybody, I mean, they're great, but if you have no more hair algae, bring it back to the fish store. Because
that's what I'm going to do. They run a pretty good deal on it.
Yeah, if they starve, they'll die, and then you'll have more issues than what you started with. Excuse me, I got to take.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, I'm getting to where it's just about out. So, when I get back from being out of town this weekend, then I'll bring it back to the fish store.
All right, cool. That works. I know a fish store that actually loans them out. As long as you bring it back alive, you don't have to pay for it.
That's basically what they do. It was it's $5 basically. You know, it's what is it, $15, and they give you $10 back when you bring it back.
Cool. That's awesome.
So I mean, it's not just loan, but it's better than not giving you anything for it.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Good deal. I mean, it's just little money that adds up. Let's see here. Who joined the chat? We got Fish Frenzy. I saw you come in. I feel like I saw somebody else, but they left. Joey,
what's going on, guys?
What's going on? Does anybody in the chat here have any questions? Joe, I'm going to put your screen up here so you can show people your tank. You can do your thing there. Does anybody have any questions for me before I go down the list still?
Yeah, Travis, I'd like to have another question for you.
Sure.
When it comes to the Red Sea Coral Color Program, I noticed that it's like you said, it's based off your calcium, and I think it's like 50 every levels of calcium. It's like 1 mil of.
It's 1 mil
colors.
it's 1 mil of A, B, C, and D per 50 milliliters of BRS calcium that you're using up. I couldn't tell you what other calcium brands it's based off, but that's for BRS.
I gotcha. Well, considering because my tank's small, I really barely have to dose any alkalinity or calcium or anything like that. So would it even be worth it for me to even use the Red Sea Coral Color Program?
Nope. Nope. You won't need it until you have SPS. I found that I've seen people use it in tanks with LPS and soft corals. There wasn't anything noticeably different with it. Now, when it comes to montoporas and acropora, you can notice the difference. But again, I want people to understand that the Red Sea Coral program is there to aid you, but it comes back down to the basics. So, as long as you have stable calcium, alkalinity, magnesium levels, you have the right spectrum and the right PAR readings over your tank, you're going to grow coral. It's going to look good regardless. Now, it's when you can accomplish that and you have good coloration, you can go ahead and add that additional programs to your tank and see if you can get better color or better growth with those programs. But I always tell people, because a lot of people think that, hey, if I kind of slack a little bit, or I'm not, as much attention to detail to the basic things of reefing and stability, that maybe this color program will help me get a little bit farther ahead without having to actually do the work. And it just doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
No, absolutely. I hear you.
And if anybody, guys, I just saw a question here. Purple up. That shit is dumb. Don't use it. All it is calcium in the bottle. That's the dumbest thing in the world. If you honestly want coralline algae, just contact me via email and I'll send you some for like a small shipping fee. I use it to seed all my tanks. I just pull it off my frag system. It's pretty simple. Anyways. Oh, let's see here. Did you have anything else on there, man? I know that you said that was your question. I know that somebody else either had a question or you had an additional one.
No, that's it for me.
All right. Cool.
I had a question about flow,
Sure.
especially in my tank. My CP40, the Jabo CP40 of mine, just broke.
That's the gyre version looking one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It broke?
Yeah, it broke. So I was going to go back to the, and it needs a different input to interact with the Apex that I don't have and is more expensive. So I was going to go back to like the RW8 or RW4.
Okay.
But I was like trying to think how many I would need, especially now I have bare bottom, whereas when I originally set the system up, it was a deep sand bed and a shallower tank. So it's a
go ahead, sorry.
It's a 65-gallon tank.
How wide? How long is it? 4 feet?
3 feet.
3 feet. And how wide is it?
It's 18 inches front to back.
Okay. And tall, I'm assuming, what, 20-something?
20, 24, something like that.
Okay. And my question for you is I seem like a lot of people tell me that they just went to bare bottom, and is it, and you can be on, you don't have to agree with me or anything, is it because you've been watching the videos with all my bare bottom stuff? Because that's a lot of people say, hey, I saw your tank at bare bottom, I've been stripping the sand out. I don't know if that was maybe your reason for switching from watching.
I didn't want to pay for sand.
Yep,
quite honestly.
That's a big key, because you'd have to replace it after a while with that deep sand bed stuff. But I always like to ask, because a lot of people said, hey, after I posted that video on how to take your sand out, how to go from sanded to bare bottom, I get messages all the time, and it's just, I always like to ask people and see if that's the reason why they did it or not. So when it comes to flow, you said RW 4s, right? Or 8s?
Or 8. Right now I have one RW8 in there, which is pointed right at my SPS. Just trying to keep them going while I try to get these replacements.
Are those connected to the Apex? Or are they running off the standard controller?
Apex right now.
Okay, and you got the different wave modes and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I would go ahead and since you already have the 8, get another 8 because you can always dial the down with a bare bottom, man. There's no such thing as too much flow. I have this 300 right now. I have just over 20,000 gallons per hour when they're in surge modes. So it's pretty crazy. So I don't really feel that there is too much flow. You can always dial it down to whatever you want. I would go ahead and get another 8, hook it up to the Apex, and then make your adjustments based on your your pulse modes and what the coral's like. Say you have 2 8s in there and you put them on 1 second on, 1 second off at 80%, and you find that your acros are not opening up, your torches or whatever are sucked in, then you know it's too much flow. So you can go ahead and change that. And I wouldn't directly blast any kind of coral. I would put it in a generic spot on the side of the tank, basically across from each other, and then do your pulse modes. Maybe have them one pulsing it when one's off, kind of do that whole wave motion. That works as well. But yeah, since you already have 8, get an 8, and then just lower it down, man.
Makes sense. Thanks, dude.
No problem, dude. Anybody else have a question for me?
Yeah, I actually have the same question, Travis.
Sure.
I have the 92 corner tank, and I have 4 PPAs, and I don't know where to put them. I have 2 in each corner on the top, and they pulse each other. And what happens is that sometimes when they hit in the middle, the wave, it creates this thing that goes on the all the way to the bottom, and it moves all my sand all over the place. I lower when I lower. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. When I lower the actual speed or the intensity of it, I don't see any movement whatsoever on any of the corals that I have.
Well, right now, because you're pulsing them together towards each other, they're going to come together, and the water has to go somewhere. So right now, because they're probably angled down a little bit, they're going down towards the sand bed. What I would do is go ahead and angle one up, angle one down, okay, for the back wall, and then you have some on the sides, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, angle them away from each other, and then continue to do your pulses, and it will be fine. You won't have an issue with that. Of course, don't blast the sand bed. Don't go straight up because you'll shoot water out of the tank. But you make them a little off, and then you won't have that issue with them messing with your sand bed.
All right. Thanks.
No problem, man. Cool. Man, I can't believe we've been going for 45 minutes already. Jeez. I'm going to go ahead. This is last call. Anybody have anything for me here? If not, I'm going to go ahead and go to questions in the chat. So if you guys have questions in the chat, start asking them now. And yeah, we'll go from there. We have about 15 minutes left. I know that Alan, I didn't hear from him yet. I didn't see if he was in here. He had a specific question about using a Chaeto reactor, which is the Pax Bellum ARIDN 18. I looked it up, and he said that he wants to use that instead of doing carbon dosing. And I'll tell you right now, if you have a good skimmer and you have a good Chaeto reactor, carbon dosing is not necessary. I'll tell you guys right now. Billy, shut the hell up, dude. How tall am I? I'm 5'8", dude. Giant size here. But what a dick. But basically, if you have carbon dosing sucks at this point. I used to use it on 125, and yes, it really helps keep the tank nice and the levels down, nitrates levels down. But I'm telling you right now, if you screw up biopellets, or you have just a little bit more than you probably should, you'll end up bleaching or causing your coral to be very light in color. And that was something that I ran into on the 125 for sure. So that once I added that new skimmer, that Quantum 300 to the frag tank, I took my biopellets off, and I haven't looked back since, and I probably won't. So let's see what kind of questions here, guys. Not personal questions. I'm not giving any of that crap. This is our reef tanking channel. You guys don't need to know what size underwear I use or wear. Anyways, Billy is like 6'12" or some shit, making him 7 foot.
6'12".
7 foot. 6'14" is what Billy is. What size shoes do I wear? Like 12 and a half, something. I got big feet. It's kind of weird. You know what they say about big feet? Jesus. Here we go, man. Here we go. It's going to turn into a clusterfuck for the next 10 minutes. How much for subs? I don't know. Ask Coralus how much it costs to pay for subs. Anyways, moving down. Nice call, Rico, on that one. tidy whites or boxers.
Oh
I wear
my
briefs,
God.
man. You guys are a bunch of dicks, man. I wear briefs. I like briefs. I feel that they hold my balls just right. You guys are gonna get this video demonetized. God damn you fuckers. Well, okay, here's a normal question. What is a good and expensive power head for a 20-gallon tank, 24 by 12 by 16? Jabos, Barry. Jabos seem to be, if you're looking for a pulsing mode or something that you can have various speeds, Jabos are definitely a way to go. They're pretty cheap, and for a tank that small, you could probably stay underneath $50 for sure. I hope that answers your question. Big socks. Yeah, big socks is what you get with big shoes. You guys are a bunch of freaking trolls. I'm having a lot of algae part in my initial tank cycle. Question mark. Should I start water changes to the point where measured? Well, that comes down. If you're getting a lot of algae, what type of algae is it? What next? That's your name here on the chat. Are you getting hair algae? Are you just getting a diatom bloom? Did you get your rock cured? Was your rock cured? Is it just dry rock that has never seen water before? Is it live rock? Those are all questions that are going to dictate what you do. But if you're growing hair algae, if you didn't cure your rock, you need to start doing water changes as soon as possible. I love CJ, but you know, you go out, you can go learn from him what you're supposed to do after the fact. No offense on that, by the way, if you're still here. I love you. Anyways, I came to this video at a weird time. Yes, you did, man. Yes, you did. That sucks. Oh, you guys can see my blue Linkia starfish. You guys have been asking me how long I've had that guy. It's been about 2 years, and people keep saying they die in captivity, but this guy is a trooper. I mean, he lived with a snowflake eel in a 60-gallon for like 6 months.
I can't believe you had him that long. That's crazy.
Yeah, 2 years, man. He's a trooper. I can't believe he's still alive.
Yeah. I actually
Go ahead.
I actually work at a fish store, and we talk about it all the time. And everyone that works there, they're like, it's so hard to keep those Linkias. They only live for a few months, and I see that you've had yours for so long, and like it makes me want to get one.
They're great, man. And this is the first one I've ever had, too. I was going to actually get the orange one or red one. I mean, it looks orange. I was going to get that as well. And then, you know, see if I could keep them. And if it would go well, because I like the color, the difference between the two colors. But
Right.
how...
It's just like blue is hard to find in a reef tank, you know, unless you get like to the SPS.
Yeah, and it really stands out. I'm going to keep him in the 30-gallon just because I don't really want to move him to another tank, and he seems to be pretty happy in here. And I put him in there at day 15 that this tank was going. So it seems to be he seems to be doing good. As you can see, he's moving around doing this thing.
Yeah, that's great.
Let's see here. How's the DIY Chaeto reactor? For me, it's doing great. The only issue that I had so far with it, nothing mechanical, is that it really likes to grow hair algae in the bottom of it and clog up the inlet, which is kind of weird. I could see with all the light and stuff, but it's a very small amount of hair algae, but it's a pain in the ass. And I feel it takes away from the Chaeto. But when I do clean out the reactor, I do pull out Chaeto about every 2 weeks or so. And I'll be doing it for my third time here, probably Sunday. I'll go ahead and remove all that remove half the Chaeto or so, scrape out all the hair algae that might be in there. And then it seems like the Chaeto will grow really good for about a week, and then the hair algae will start creeping up again just a little bit in the reactor, and then it will stop growing altogether. And it's kind of like this thing. So it might just be because the tank is still kind of new. Any plans for Thanksgiving? Yeah, I had Thanksgiving Friday. I don't know. I'll probably sleep tomorrow all day if I can get away with it. I know that Lexi's taking the boys to her family stuff, so I'll probably just do nothing. Probably screw around down here, set myself on fire by messing around with something I shouldn't, you know, normal things. Good luck with the starfish. Yep. They will eat detritus, the bottom of the tank. Yep. They actually, this guy likes to stay on the back wall, which is really good. I like when he does that. I'm trying to see if I can scroll up. What deodorant do I use? What the fuck? I don't know. I'll tell you guys right now. I like to switch my deodorant, not the brand, but I like to switch the type every like 3 months or so, just to kind of, you know, I like to, I like to seem like there's somebody else in the room. You know, you smell yourself like, oh, who's that? No, that's me. Just somebody new. I like to mix it up a little bit, but
I love how you're going so in depth.
The Old Spice.
That's funny.
Is usually what I use. Your biggest troll is MOD. Oh, I don't know who the fuck that is. See a dick? I don't know who that is. I got a lot of trolls. Let's see how many dislikes we get on this video. And by the way, 3 dislikes. So, by the way, if you dislike this video and you're still in here, you can go fuck yourself all day long. If you are in here and you haven't hit the like button, we have 80 people in here. I only have 44 likes. How about we hit the like button and appreciate all the time I put in here rambling? Please and thank you. Again, guys, the coral sale is going on to the end of the month. If you guys want to check that out, it's pretty cool stuff. I'll have some stuff going on. For right now, I'm working on. I'm going to be rebuilding my entire frag tank. I'm going to be double stacking low boys. Okay, so I'm going to have 4 low boys, same refugium, same plumbing, same pump, all that good stuff. I will be taking the T5s off, going with all LEDs, just because I have T5s on a 300, and I don't feel like replacing a bunch of T5s. And I've got a really good deal now with acropora on frag plugs ready to go. And that stuff will be what you see is what you get on the website. I'm planning on doing that on the beginning of January. Also at that frag swap on January 20th, I'll be there at that fish place in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And yeah, I definitely have a lot of good things coming on for coming soon to the website as well as the channel. Plus, Reef Tanks for Veterans starts January 1st. 10% of all coral sales will go towards that, and you guys will see all those bills that I do for the disabled veterans. So it's gonna be pretty cool. Let's see, we got a couple questions left. We got about 7 minutes. Triton working good for this tank and corals? Yes. If you saw the last video I posted on the 30 gallon, I did a day 6 to day 30 comparison. I've been running Triton for about, I would say, a little over 2 weeks now, and I am manually dosing it, so it's a huge pain in the ass. But excuse me. But I do plan on getting some of those dosing pumps for the Apex. When I feel like, when I get through all the lighting on the 300, I plan on putting those on dosing because I don't feel like doing it manually every day. But yeah, so far it's doing good. I have 0 death on any coral in the tank. Everything's encrusting and seems to be growing pretty well. Let's see here. Questions about the 300 gallon lighting. Okay, so I decided on the lighting. And I was talking to Billy Pipes about this too, kind of figure out what I wanted to do. Now, we have the 2 retrofit kits. I bought those new 48-inch retrofit kits that we talked about earlier in the live stream. So I have 2 of those built into the canopy of the 300. And then I'm going to be adding 10 of the Radion Gen 4 Pros, I think XR15s. So we're going to be adding 10 of the 15s down the middle of those 2 retrofit kits. So if that's not enough lighting, I don't know what is, okay? Because my aquascape, it is a lot of light, but it's going to be 0 shading. I mean, there's no shading now, but I want to be able to really get down to the bottom of the glass. Granted, I'm not growing acropora on the bottom of the glass, but I still want to hit at least 150 par. So, but the reason why I went with the XR15s, or I think it's XR, it might be. I've been looking at scopes all day for the muzzleloader, so I've been thinking about that specific letter combination. But either way, basically, I was going to go with the 30s, but because if I go with the 15s, then I can add more of them. So I'll get an additional 2 lights in that area because there is bracing between the 2 fixtures. So that will take care of that shading aspect. Plus, I can move them around a little bit to fill any gaps that might be shady, or there might be
you'll get a better spread.
Yeah, and they're all going to be controlled. I got the WXM module already connected. I'll be connecting since there are 11 channels on that module, I'll be hooking up the MP10 on the 30, which you guys will see soon, as well as those 10 lights will all be connected to the Apex. And it's not bad. I will be ordering my first 1 or 2 lights this week for that tank. Now, I was going to order more, but I have to buy a new scope for my muzzleloader because I broke the other one today because it just can't handle the shock from the rifle. So I talked about that earlier before we actually went live. Either way, yeah, let's see what kind of questions we got here. We got 3 minutes. Let me scroll up. Got coral today. Thanks, love it. Good. I'm glad that coral worked out. I didn't hear anything. I'm assuming this is how it works. When I send coral out, if I don't hear anything, I figure no news is good news. So if you're not complaining, I'm good. If you do have an issue, if it's DOA, if it's dead on arrival, just all you have to do is take a picture of it in the cup, or if the picture is not clear in the cup, take a picture out of there. I'll give you a promo code for the coral, so you can use it on your next purchase to get money off. So I definitely don't screw anybody over. If something's dead when you get it, you're going to get your money back one way or another. So just remember that, guys. Let's see here.
Hey, Travis, on the Diaton Bloom, I already put my 200 milliliters of the magnesium, so I'm waiting at 10:20 to check it out. But what happened if I have some on my sand and 4 days ago I had in my glass and I cleaned it up, and then now it's back again, not as much. But tomorrow I'm planning to do a water change. Will you recommend me doing a water change even though I add the 200 milliliters of magnesium?
I would right now I'd hold off on your water change until you get your magnesium level where it should be. And I would also go ahead and test your salt, all 3 parameters, calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, just to kind of see what you're putting in the tank. Say for example, your magnesium levels
2.1, I think it is.
2.1. What do you mean? 1.021. That's what you mix your salt to?
No, I don't mix my salt too. That's what I have in my tank right now.
You have your salinity is 1.021.
Yep.
Okay, well is this Jonathan?
Yes, it is.
That's the reason why your stuff is not doing so well.
Oh.
You gotta get your salinity up slowly to 1.025 or 2.6. Corals do very well in that. Now the thing is, when you have your salinity to that level, your calcium alkalinity will start being at the natural levels, which will help keep your pH elevated and all that good stuff. So your salinity is too low. Yes, you can grow coral in it. Is it optimal? Absolutely not. So get your salinity up, but do it slowly over water changes over the next week or a couple weeks or so.
So basically, what? Take 10% off and add 10% water with salt.
Now, do you have coral in the tank right now?
Yes, I do.
Okay. SPS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. What I would do is go ahead and do a 20% water change. Your salinity being at 1.026 of that salinity, do 20%. It'll bring it up a little bit. It's only 20%. It's really not a ton of water. Wait, 4 or 5 days. Go ahead and do it again. You can get that level up relatively quickly. I mean, I've seen people dump cups of salt in their sumps to get their levels up. So, I mean, you're not gonna, you doing water changes is not exactly gonna be a bad thing. But yeah, just get it up to 1.025 or 2.6, whatever you're comfortable at, you'll be fine. So
okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah, I wish I knew that before. I'm gonna put that on my what you need to ask early on in the discussion is what is your salinity level, and I tend to pass up on stuff like that. So I'm glad you said something. Let's see here. Question wise,
Travis, Michael wants to know which of your frag tanks have had better growth and color, the T5s or LEDs?
Better growth LEDs, better color T5s. Now, since it's a frag system, yes, the coral needs to look really good, but I also need to grow them to encrust them to get them out the door. So it's not a display tank. So I'm going to go back to LEDs on everything. Will be, when I redo the system, I'll have the 4 tanks. So there'll be LEDs over all of them. And that's strictly for my sake of my electric bill and my wallet when it comes to replacing bulbs. There's no other reason than that. I would keep T5s, but it's just not something I want to pay for right now. So hope that answers your question.
Hey, Travis, do you know an easy way to silence a shadow overflow that's being just a little bit too loud? I think it's because the water is splashing against the back when it goes into the back box.
Yep, I know exactly what you got to do. Your standpipe, your emergency drain is how far up in the back box right now?
Like 70%, 75%.
Okay. What you want to do is bring the water level in the back of the box by dialing down the ball valve that the water's coming out of. Dial it up so the water in the back of the box comes up a little bit higher. That will take care of the splash. That's the exact same problem I had the 125, and I had to actually redo my my emergency line just to make sure that I can get the water level up high enough to do that. So just dial down the flow a little bit. It will come back and it will come up in the back of the box, and you'll be good to go. And anything that's going to spill over will obviously go down the emergency drain.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. I usually run my back, like on the 300. I usually run all my my water lines to the emergency line, like literally like a 1/4 inch underneath the top of the emergency line. I always do that because I don't like listening to that splashing bull crap. So. Well, hey guys, it is 10:01 and we've had a consistent 80-ish viewers the whole time. So I appreciate you guys being here. We will continue this on next week. If you guys want to be a part of this stream, you can definitely check out my Patreon. The link might be in the description below. You can check it out. And it's like $2 a month. So you're supporting me. You get in here, ask your questions. You can bother me on Patreon all you want. It's not really bothering me. I actually enjoy it. And you guys can definitely hit me up whenever. So either way, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. And I'm about to end it like I did in all my videos. And I'll see you next time. Peace.
Thank you.
Later, guys.
Later, man.
Peace.